She comes up to the stage.
Hello, hello, hello. Hello, hello. Hi. I'm sad about the popcorn not existing, but we can bring our own, right? Right? Yes? He says yes. Ish. I am so excited to be a part of the movie series this summer because I don't love formal preaching, and I've been doing it for 26 years, and it just doesn't feel right. Formal preaching freaks me out, so I'm just going to confess that. Coy will tell you my very first sermon in Orlando, Florida, I was so freaked out that I did a monologue, like a theatrical stage play that I wrote myself, and I reenacted the Bible story. So I'm excited that we have another medium, to work with, which is movie watching, and it makes me feel better. It makes me feel like, I can do this. So I hope you enjoy today's message. It is not like your typical message, and if you come back next week, guess what? I get to preach again, but you will think that I have had a lobotomy because it's very different. Next week will be very different than this week, but that's me. I'm very different all the time, and that's what I bring. And I have loved being a part of Somos Church for the last 10 years, and I know you already know that about me. But if you're new, I am a pastor, and I'm a little bit of a weirdo, and that's okay. The Labyrinth is my favorite movie, okay? It's not my favorite 80s movie. It's not my favorite fantasy movie. It's my favorite movie. This iconic combo of Jim Henson, George Lucas, David Bowie, and Jennifer Connelly is everything to me. And it's just special. And maybe you weren't even born then. Some of you were never born then. Some of you were born, but you were like a day old in 1986. Who here is born in the 80s, like 1985 and up? Okay, so you were an infant as David Bowie was wearing silver tights. I didn't wear those because I didn't think you'd want that, but I did wear a shirt. Just a little nod to David. But this is a strange thing to admit publicly because when I tell people about my love for Labyrinth, they either nod yes, and we immediately go into this deep conversation about why, or they look at me like someone has just shared a page out of their therapy journal because they're like, are you saying this out loud? That's really, out of all the movies that exist in the world, that's your favorite? And I'm like, that's it. So I'll be the first one to say this movie is kind of ridiculous. Just to summarize it, David Bowie kidnaps a baby. Do you guys know anything about it? Kidnaps a baby. Jennifer Connelly has 13 hours to solve the maze. And every character, except for a few, are puppets. You guys tracking? You're going to track soon. Anyway, the whole thing looks like someone took a Renaissance festival and mixed it with Hollywood, and then everyone on the creative team had 5 espressos, and then they were allowed to write. And I mean that as a compliment, just because this is a labyrinth. It is weird. There's a scene where heads come off, and it's so funny to me. It's one of the most joyful scenes I've ever seen in my life. Limbs rearranged, it's very strange. It's so good. Anyway, I think I like it so much, not because of all of the feathers and goblins and inexplicable dance numbers. I mean, inexplicable. If you want to be amazed, just watch the dance numbers. I think I love it so much because there's something so incredibly human about it. So raw. So you see this character being lost and confused and not knowing what voices to listen to. And I think a lot of times, us humans, we're not sure what voices we should listen to, even if we have found a voice, we have subscribed to a faith, we have said yes to Jesus, we have been trained in some type of way, and we're still in this maze sometimes. And it's confounding and disorienting, and it doesn't always feel good. So at first, the plot of this movie, and I'm sorry if I'm ruining the whole thing, but I am. Sorry, 1986 happened a long time ago. The plot seems to be about solving the maze, but I don't think it's that at all. I think it's about this girl who is going through her own brand of crisis, and she has to figure out which voices to listen to. That's just what I think it's about. So I want you, as we kind of journey through the Bible and Jim Henson's Labyrinth, to imagine your own brand of crisis. And I know that might not be fun, exciting, la-di-da, but just picture it for a moment and hold it there, maybe write it down, text it to yourself. Like, what's your brand of crisis? What is your labyrinth? What is your maze? Where are you currently? Because life can feel like an endless echo chamber of voices that's much like a maze. And some of the voices can come from ourselves, and some of them can come from anywhere. They can come from people we trust, from people we don't trust, from people who we didn't even give permission to talk to us. They can give us ideas and opinions and chitter-chatter and responses and DMs, and before you know it, you're like, what is what? Which way is up? And sometimes we think the only progress we're making is ending up where we started. Have you ever felt like you started down a journey and you were making progress and you're healing and you're figuring it out and you're overcoming the thing, and then you like landed right back where you were? Anyone ever feel that way? You don't have to like shake your head, or you just know it, right? So I have felt that way. And so Sarah faces some of these wild situations in the labyrinth. We're gonna walk through them. And as I'm watching it, I'm like, what am I going to say? Like, what does the Bible say about this weird stuff? I'm like, oh, I know what it is. I was so excited. Because, like, Paul is kind of weird and stuff. And I don't always know what to do with Paul, the writer. He wrote some stuff in the Bible. And I believe, he may be one of the most pendulum-like people in the Bible, because he started out murdering people who followed Jesus. Do you guys know that? Paul was someone who murdered people who wanted to be about the way, about Jesus. And then once he has his own experience, he redefines everything, kind of like unplugs from all the channels he was in, and then starts down this new path. And then people don't believe him because he was murdering them before, which makes sense because that's problematic. If you've tried to murder me once, I'm not going to believe you that you're not trying to murder me again. So this back and forth Paul comes into the scene, and he gains some strength. He's going through a maze of his own, and he says something in Ephesians chapter 6, and I'm going to read that to you because he says, finally, be strong. And I'm like, why is he saying finally? What is going on here that he is so oppressed, or he is so confused or so lost that he is just saying, be strong? So he had been through some things, and I want to share what he had to say before we jump into the movie, so you know like where we're going before we get there, okay? All right, so in Ephesians chapter 6, Paul says this in a season of confusion. He says, finally, be strong in the Lord and in his mighty power. Put on the full armor of God so that you can take your stand against the devil's schemes. I want you to just like hang out in that phrase, against the devil's schemes. For our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against rulers, against authorities, against forces of evil in the heavenly realms. And then it says, therefore, put on the full armor of God so that when the day of evil comes, he says it again, when the day of evil comes, that you may be able to stand your ground. And after you've done everything to stand, then stand firm, with the belt of truth around your waist, the breastplate of righteousness in place, with your feet fitted with the readiness that comes from the gospel of peace. In addition to all this, take up the shield of faith with which you can extinguish the flaming arrows of the evil one. This is some descriptive stuff. This is feeling Labyrinth to me. Maybe Paul, somehow embodied Jim Henson. I don't know. It says, take the helmet of salvation and the sword of the Spirit, which is the word of God, and pray in the Spirit on all occasions with all kinds of prayers, with all kinds of requests. With this in mind, be alert and always keep on praying for all the Lord's people. There's a lot of stuff in here that we can unpack about what is the helmet of salvation and what is the sword of the Spirit. I'm not going to focus on that today. What I want to focus on is that Paul identifies evil as schemes. He identifies evil ones as people who have methods to take you down. Then he says, we do all of this from a gospel of peace. So he's not saying go to war. And I think a lot of times this message is preached from a place of violence because there are warlike images being used. And I'm not saying that other messages are wrong. I'm just saying my experience is peace, that the gospel is about peace. And if it is about peace, then what is Paul saying? He's saying, stand and go with others. If you read the last verse, it says, pray in the Spirit in all occasions with all kinds of prayers and requests. Some of you out here, like me, don't know how to pray because it's a very weird thing. I didn't grow up praying. My parents didn't pray. My brother's here today. His family's here today. We didn't grow up in a household who prayed. I had a grandfather who prayed, but it was scary. Like when he prayed in his bedroom, I thought he was dying. Can you relate? Like the moaning, the wailing, the gnashing of teeth. I think he needed a mouth guard. I don't know. It was scary. Scary. I didn't like prayer. We would go to church and we would have communion and I would be praying, dear God, save me, free me from my sin because I'm about to die. Because if I take this communion, I'm going to die. I'm going to die. Like that was my, early OCD happening. But it was also like, I am going to freak out because I don't know how to pray. But Paul is saying, do it with all kinds of prayers and requests. And to do this always, and to keep on doing it, and to do it with, and that's why we're here, it's why we're always here, it's why church exists. It says to do it with all the Lord's people. If someone is isolating you, they're not praying with you. If they're shaming you, they're not praying with you. If they're coming together and they're like, I think that's okay how you pray, that's fine. It's cool, it's weird, it's different, but I'll pray with you like that because I know you have a request different from mine. So we're going to focus on that because the text says stand against the enemy's schemes, and the Greek word here is methodeia. And honestly, I've been to seminary, but I only went to see there people are smarter than me there. There are lots of people smarter than me. They know all the things. They know the Greek, the Hebrew. They have done the exegesis and the eisegesis, and I have only done the watching and the learning. But I do know that this word means method. We get the word method from this Greek word. And it means strategy, a carefully planned way of operating. It is a playbook. If you've ever been in a toxic, harmful, disgusting situation, and then you find yourself in another one, you can usually see there are common things. Evil likes to conceal itself in comfort or in whatever you need. So I'd like to show you that, in this movie, the evil doesn't kick the door down and say, I'm here. It studies the house and it learns your ways. Evil studies the house. It studies you. It studies what you love and what you care about. And at the right moment, it uses a method to deceive you. So we have to be strong. We have to keep on praying. And it actually shows up long before Ephesians. Paul did not invent this. In the book of Genesis, Adam and Eve get this idea, like, did God really say? And that wasn't a question that just sprang up. It was a question that was planted in a conversation that was very casual. It was like, hey, did God really say that? They're having lunch with a snake, as one does in the beginning of time. And this conversation allows them to think about their own autonomy and what we could do without God. And so this is what happens in the Labyrinth, and I'm going to give you just a little backstory. King Jareth, which is David Bowie plays his character, uses a covert method to rewrite Sarah's reality. So let's just watch and begin to imagine and remember your own brand of pain, your own brand of confusion as you're watching this. This is Sarah entering the labyrinth. Can you relate? Have you ever been in a moment like that? I love her acting, by the way. It's so precious. One of the things Sarah learns is that the labyrinth isn't what she thinks it would be. And you know, the reason why she has to solve it is to save her little brother, Toby, who's a baby. Of course, this is insane, but this is why she's there, and she has only a few hours. So she's in there, and she's starting to question herself because the deception is starting to sink in. It wastes her energy as she's running. It's wasting her energy. It's causing her to doubt herself. I think most of us think that confusion is the problem when we're in these types of situations. If we could just figure this out, if I could just unlock it, if I could just do something differently. But clarity isn't always promised in the Bible. God's presence is. God doesn't always say, I'm going to make it clear. I mean, you can look back through all of the stories of the Bible, and there's like a lot of stuff going on that's very clearly confusing. But the clarity just isn't there. And so what do we do to stay strong when things are unclear? We start listening for good voices. So this morning, I'm going to invite you to think about the voices in your life, because we're going to build a little story around Sarah, but who is building a story around you? And you may even want to write down the names of people that come to mind as I'm talking, because they might be little whispers from God, just saying, hey, maybe this might be a good voice for you. So Sarah, just like many people in the past have wandered and been lost. The people of Israel, they were 40 years. Jesus wandered in the wilderness before he preached his first sermon, was lost and emaciated and confused and being tempted. And so this is not something new, right? We're all experiencing this. And Sarah encounters these voices, and she has to decide what to do with them. And I think we also get to decide what to do with the voices that interact with us. So I want you to meet one of my favorite characters in the story, the worm.
Did you say hello? No, I said hello. Well, that's close enough. You're a worm, aren't you? Yeah, that's right. You don't by any chance know the way to this labyrinth, do you? Oh, me? No, I'm just a worm. Oh. Come inside and meet the missus. No, thank you. I have to solve this labyrinth. But there aren't any turns or any openings or anything. It just goes on and on. Well, you could be wrong. It's all of our things. It's just you ain't seen them. Where are they? There's one just across there. It's right in front of you. No, there isn't. Come inside and have a nice cup of tea. But there isn't an opening. Of course there is. You try walking through it. You'll see what I mean. What? Go on then. That's just wall. There's no way through. Things are not always what they seem in this place. So you can't take anything for granted. Hey! Hey, hang on! Thank you. That was incredibly helpful. Don't go that way. What was that? I said, don't go that way. Never go that way. Oh, thanks. You should have kept on going down that way. Should have gone straight to that castle.
The whole movie could have been over. Every time I watch that scene, I feel the same way. Like, what? If she would have just chatted a little longer, just a second longer, just paused for a moment to just be grateful that this worm is helping her out. The worm says if she'd have kept going down that way, she'd have gone straight to the castle, and she would have gotten straight to Toby, and Toby would have been saved, and the whole thing would have been over. But thanks. And she turns around, and she goes in the way that she thought she should be going when the worm knew all along. The entire movie could have been over, but if she would have paused, she might have seen that maybe God was sending someone. I'm spiritualizing a very not spiritual movie, by the way, but you're tracking. Maybe God is putting someone in your voice with a simple hello. Notice the good voices around you. That's a point I just want you to remember. Notice the good voices around you. It could be a friend, a coffee, a conversation, a text, a community, a church, a book. It could be anything. God could use anyone or anything. God is the God of the universe. God can speak through anyone or anything, and it could be a tiny blue worm saying, hello. Just listen and be patient because God wants to speak to you. But then Sarah meets Hoggle. Are you ready? He's so great and ugly and cute. Ew.
Well, we can't stop now. Maybe we can find some berries or something.
Sarah,
Yeah?
here.
Oh. Thank you. You're a lifesaver. It's strange. Oh, what have you done?
Oh, damn you, Jared. And damn me, too.
We can pause here. Honestly, Hoggle might be the most relatable character in this movie because we all make mistakes and we all have friends that feel a little compromised, and Hoggle was definitely compromised. Jareth was using him to get what he wanted, and he wants to help, but he's also trying to survive. Do you have friends that want to help, but they're also trying to survive, and they seem to be a little duplicitous? That happens because we're human. Sarah, though, even though this happens, there's a lot of stuff that happens after. Sarah does not finish the maze without Hoggle. And I think that's beautiful because I think sometimes we imagine having a faithful community as everything being perfect and people being perfect. But the church isn't always like that. It's mostly been Hoggles trying to help each other while working through their own fears. Do you guys feel that? The church is mostly Hoggles like that, who are working together while trying to work through their own fears. It's why we do story work here. It's why you hear so much about the Allender Center. That's why we talk about our stories so much, because if we pretend we're perfect, we will become the Jareth in the story. We will deceive not just others, but we'll also deceive ourselves. And so there's something about Hoggle that I love because he really wants to help, but he just can't because he's so sold out and compromised. And he's really trying to work through something he is afraid of. So my point here is don't wait for everyone to be perfect. God has never waited for perfect people, and neither should we. The entire Bible is full of people that were imperfect, and God used anyway. So then comes what I think is the most dangerous scene in the entire movie. It's a little bit longer, but Sarah falls into this peach-induced dream, and it distracts her. It distracts her from the reason that she's there, from her purpose. And it disorients her in a way that could be the end. So watch this.
Gotham City. Take back the child that you have stolen.
What's the matter, Peter? Don't you like your toys?
It's all junk.
Well, what about this? This is not junk.
Yes, it is.
So Sarah figures it out. Sarah figures it out. Jareth has been distracting her with her fantasy fairy tale, and he doesn't threaten her at all. He offers her her dreams, her dance. The junk lady distracts her with her own memories. The junk lady doesn't threaten Sarah. The junk lady offers her comfort. And this is how grooming works. This is how evil works. This is how methods work and strategies that are meant to hurt us. The weapon wasn't the maze. The weapon wasn't force. It was forgetfulness. Jareth wanted her to forget. And I think sometimes this happens to us. Paul calls these types of distraction schemes. And I wonder how many of us are carrying things God never asked us to carry. And sometimes they're good things. And God's saying maybe we should throw it off, our old expectations, old disappointments, old identities, old versions of ourselves that we're strangely unwilling to part with because they feel comfortable, even if they're hurting us. I have 2 more clips, and we'll be done. I want you to notice what distractions are doing and then what can happen when you decide not to let them control you. So watch this.
Jareth made me give you that peach. I don't care what you think of me. I told you I was a coward, and I ain't interested in being friends.
I forgive you, Hoggle.
You do?
And I commend you. Rarely have I seen such courage. You are a valiant man, Sir Hoggle.
I am.
Look our friends.
We are.
Here are your things, Hoggle. Thanks for your help.
Well, what are we waiting for? Let's get that rat who calls himself Jareth.
At this point in the movie, Sarah has Hoggo and Ludo and Sir Didymus, and none of them are particularly qualified. I don't know if you noticed, but Ludo barely speaks. Sir Didymus has enough confidence for everyone, despite being wrong about half of the things he says. This is what friendships are, and this is what church is. And I don't want to say it's anything else, because it really is this group of people who borrow each other's courage and strength. So borrow someone else's strength when you are afraid. And then I have one of the most favorite endings of all time for you to see. I want you to see what can happen when you realize that you have your strength and you can stand, that you have people who you can stand with. Here's the type of thing you can say.
Give me the child.
Sarah, beware.
Sorry about the tights.
I have been jealous. I can be cruel.
What have you done with strength?
Everything. Everything that you wanted, I have done. You asked that the child be taken. I took him. You cowered before me. I was frightened. I have realtered time. I have turned the world upside down. And I have done it all for you.
I'm exhausted from living up to your expectations. Isn't that justice?
Through dangers untold and hardships unknown, I have fought my way here to the castle beyond the Goblin City. My will is as strong as yours, and my strength.
Wait. Look, Sarah. Look what I'm offering. Your dreams.
And my kingdom is great.
I ask for so little. Just let me rule you. And you can have everything that you want.
The kingdom is great. Damn. I can never remember that line.
Just fear me. Love me. Do as I say, and I will be your slave.
So, in order to find your way out, you have to remember the truth. And you have to say it and recall it. And sometimes when we can't remember it, we need other people to help us find our way. The Bible and other texts that I've read, even in literature in English and in literature from other countries, I've never really met like a plot where the character outsmarted the evil. It was always the character finding some truth that they already knew or understanding something that they forgot. And I think standing, like Paul is inviting us to do, requires knowing, but we really can't know unless we are reminded. And we can't really be reminded unless we open ourselves up to the love of community. Sarah doesn't beat the maze and get her little brother back because she becomes stronger or more clever than Jareth. She wins because she finally sees through his method, and she says it. And I love this. She's so sassy. She's like, I don't remember this line. But she had it right there. The way through the maze is remembering who God is and remembering who you are and finding a few people together to help you remember the truth. So notice who's around you. Notice the good voices. Notice the good voices. Who are they? Can you just imagine who they are? They might make you laugh. They might make you cry. They might make you mad sometimes. Notice the mistakes you've made and the mistakes other people you love made. And imagine yourself saying, but I forgive you. Thank you for helping me. Stop waiting for everybody to be perfect and even let yourself off the hook, okay? There's a lot of stuff out there that can lure you into trying to be perfect when God is only inviting you to be loved. And notice what's distracting you. Maybe decide that it's not going to distract you anymore. Maybe throw it out the window or break it. And then borrow someone else's strength. Because the truth is, none of those lies have any power over you. We tend to forget that Jesus came, died, rose again so that we could experience the power of life. So when shame tells you that your failures define you or that you're lost without a way out, just say, you have no power over me. When fear tells you nothing will ever change, say, you have no power over me. When anxiety tells you you're utterly alone, you have no power over me. When the lie says you'll never be enough, you'll never fit in, you'll never make it, you have no power over me. It's not because you're stronger than the maze or the evil that's against you. It's because you know what's true. Jesus has already defeated every power that claims authority over your life. The goal isn't escaping the confusion. It's learning whose voices to trust while you're still finding your way through it. I pray that all of us would be vulnerable enough to say, hey, I'm in a maze. It is confusing. I'm talking to worms. And you need someone to come around you and say, I actually made a mistake. I gossiped about you. I didn't do the right thing. I actually hurt you. I messed up. And then we can practice saying, I forgive you. Thank you for helping me. Thank you for sticking with me when I was a bratty, whiny teenager in her fairy tale land. Thank you. And then when the time is right, we can get Ludo and Hoggle and Sir Didymus and Ambrosius, and we can say, okay, we don't know how we're going to defeat the evil that's before us, but let's go. There's nothing to be afraid of because Jesus has already overcome the world. And if that's something we believe, it's something we can do together. We can do that. We can walk toward that, even if we look like the craziest bunch, even if we all look completely different from each other, and even if we make mistakes. Let's pray. God, I thank you for an opportunity just to talk about what it looks like to not be afraid, to not let the maze define us or the method of evil that's like around in our lives be the point of our story. There's so much more to our stories than the evil scheme, the playbook. We might get stuck talking about it because it's very real and very painful. but we don't have to stay there. So I pray, God, that each person here and anybody watching online would just know that there's some hoggles out here. There's some people who love you. There's some people to be loved by. And God, you give us the opportunity to try it out. And so I thank you for that. I thank you that there isn't any power that could ever matter or be big enough to take us out because you've already done all that work. We love you. Help us to look for the good voices. Help us to stop being distracted. Help us to choose to remember that you don't leave us. They're always with us, even in the maze. Amen. Would you stand with us?